Hello and welcome back to the Point and Laugh podcast with your hosts,
Skyler
and Kaylynne. Yay!
Rings have made an appearance.
Oh yeah, they're back. I know. I noticed. One of these rings I gave to you. I gifted you. Feels very intimate.
Turn the cameras off.
Cut the cameras. James.
You did it at my birthday dinner. Time and place.
Time and place. Drink of the day. Kind of boring. I'm just trying to clean out my fridge at this point because I literally need to stop buying beverages. Like my
I don't
beverage.
agree. I do not agree.
My beverage budget is like it's exceeded the budget. Like I just spend way too much fucking money on little drinkies and I need to stop. So
my beverage budget. My
beverage.
My bev jet.
Bevjet, I guess.
Coin it.
Yeah, it's just a lemon spindrift, but you know what? It's refreshing, and I haven't really been on my sparkling water kick like I usually am. Ooh.
No, I'm not sparkling water kick like I usually am.
I am. I'm a sparkling water girly through and through. Anyway, so I don't know if I've spoken about this on the pod yet, but I did manage to indoctrinate Skyler and our friend Keely and Taylor into becoming AMC A-listers.
And you know how much convincing that took? That I had friends of mine that would like literally try to not guilt me, but just like rub their noses in the A-listers. And I was so heels in out of spite for like a year and a half. And it only took you being like, I think it's really cool, for me to be like, yeah, okay. That's fine. Because she's a shrewd businesswoman, this one.
Yeah. I really do love AMC. They're just doing it right. Anyway, so it's Memorial Day weekend when we're filming this. It is Memorial Day weekend. So we all had either half days or like the day off of work. And I was like, let's take advantage of this time. So we went and saw The Little Mermaid. I keep making the mistake of seeing child movies like at a matinee. I need to stop going to the like 1 p.m. showing.
I was thinking that like we're obviously going to get into why we have to see The Little Mermaid at a later date, but I'm literally like, do I have to go see The Little Mermaid at like 11 p.m. and just hope that like rowdy teenagers aren't also just going to be screaming like "Daddy" at like the screen?
Yeah,
am I just going to like have to hope and pray that like a midnight showing of The Little Mermaid is going to be less rowdy than like a mid-afternoon?
Yeah. It was children were childrening and just being loud. The entire row in front of us, it had to have been, it probably wasn't like a school field trip, but I would assume they were like the popular kids at their school. They had to be like 10 or 11, maybe younger.
You can smell a bitch from a mile away. Doesn't matter how old they are.
Yeah. Well, just because it was such a large group of people and the way that they were acting, I was like, you're the popular kids.
I had a toddler next to me.
Oh no. I had a grown teenager next to me and she was also equally fucking annoying simply because she wouldn't get off her phone, which I don't understand how you're even on your phone, because this AMC in particular, oh my God, we had a whole experience with the tickets, because this AMC in particular, you get zero service. Like it's a problem. You have to screenshot your ticket before you go into the theater because otherwise it will not pull up on your phone. But for some reason, I don't know if she just has like the best cellular carrier in the entire world, or she was like connected to the Wi-Fi or something, but she was texting throughout the entire fucking movie. And I don't know, not to be that person, but I'm pretty sure she came with like her boyfriend or something, because they were just cuddling for like half the movie. So I was a little like, who are you texting? Like you're a teenage girl. The only reason I could imagine that you would be texting through a movie is if you were like obsessed with your teenage boyfriend and like had to text them at all times. But so it's like, what are you doing? She was scrolling through Instagram at one point. I'm like, why are you here?
Yeah.
Why are you here? Like, turn the fucking phone off.
Just put on the soundtrack. It's on YouTube right now.
Yeah.
Just put on like the new Little Mermaid soundtrack and just sit in quiet in your bedroom.
And I'm like, just go. Yeah, but then the row in front of us, the little popular 10-year-olds in front of us, they took up literally the entire row. There were like 10 of them. They kept standing up and sitting back down. Also, I don't know whose idea it was
to have like a lighting up popcorn bucket.
Yes, the like special edition popcorn bucket that you can buy has a light in it. It glows. It literally glows like this bright blue. And I'm like, it who thought in a movie theater? Who
Yeah.
thought of this? So people were, yeah, so that was like very distracting. Yeah, but even before we got into the theater, there was like this whole issue with, for whatever reason, my ticket in particular, where I kept clicking on the Little Mermaid on my AMC app, and it would bring me to a ticket for a showing that I saw like 3 weeks ago, and it would not pull up the Little Mermaid. We literally spent like 20 minutes just trying to get my fucking ticket. And listen, I understand. I understand that like the AMC workers, it's their job, it's what they're supposed to do. But there was a certain point where I'm like, I'm literally showing you that this is not pulling up on my phone. You can see that like I was the organizer. You can see that I have the ticket. You can see that I was the organizer of this like ticket order or whatever. Like, can you just let me in? Like, do you have to scan the ticket?
This is AMC. This is not the White House.
Yeah, I'm like, you saw my ID. Like, do you really, is it that critical that you scan the ticket? Listen, I don't know what happens if they don't scan the ticket. I don't know. But it was a little like, I've been sitting here for 20 minutes trying to get my fucking ticket to pull up. It's not pulling up. Like, can you just let me in, please? But it finally pulled up. I had to connect to the Wi-Fi, which I didn't even realize that they had Wi-Fi. So you know what? Maybe egg on my face. I don't know. But yeah, so that was, I don't know. That was the whole, not actually, no, that was the beginning of the Little Mermaid experience, because then, I don't know, do we want to get into our opinions on the movie?
Yes.
It was fine. I was not a fan of, first of all, not a fan of Awkwafina in this. I'm not like an Awkwafina hater. I like her in certain things.
Like what?
This, actually, I do really like Awkwafina's Nora from Queens. I do like that, and I think she's good in Crazy Rich Asians. And there's another movie she's in that. I'm not an Awkwafina hater. Like, she's fine. But they like added new music to the new one, and it just like
It blows.
It's not good. And it also just doesn't fit.
It's
like
so random. It's like, you know what, Little Mermaid always needed? A rap. You know what I mean?
That's what it was missing. Yeah, no, that's...
And it needs like an early 2000s like pop ballad. And you know what else it needs? It needs all the music that Halle Bailey isn't singing to be like bad.
Yeah.
Also, I have the perfect meme for my thoughts. It's you know that scene in The Incredibles where like it's incredible, like the little villain when he's like a little kid in the back of the police car and he's like, Incrediboy.
Yeah.
Mr. Incredible goes, you're not affiliated with me. So on Mr. Incredible's side, it's like the people who dislike the Little Mermaid remake for simply being a live action remake of a beloved animated Disney film. And the kid in the seat is the anti-SJW incels and online grifters who bash the remake over the fact that Ariel is played by a woman of color. Where she's like, you're not affiliated with me. I dislike the Little Mermaid remake for several reasons, the least of which, like, the fact that Halle Bailey as Ariel is straight up, like, the only good part that I really, really appreciated. And if that is your only issue, straight up, racism is it's the only explanation. Her vocals, her performance, like, her face, everything. Like, it was, like...
She was wonderful.
Like, and I wish that she was just in a better movie, and it just sucks that, like... I feel like her and, like, the actor who played Eric were kind of, like, giving their whole, like, lives into these performances. Melissa McCarthy did okay. But I'm like...
I didn't mind her. I was a little... Spoiler alert. I was a little confused at the end, and I don't remember. Maybe they do this in the original. I have not seen it in so many years. But in the end, when she, like, grows to be, like, a big monster, they, like... make her face all like give her like weird like gills and stuff and like make her very scary new. And it didn't look good.
I think they tried to make her scary because I definitely remember in the original animated movie she is terrifying because because it's like it's suddenly the colors get really dark and her face is like bright white and you're like it's terrifying. I even remember just because I'm a recovering Disney adult. Hi, I'm Skyler. I'm a recovering Disney adult. Hi, Skyler. And I like to watch like theme park history. And one of the first go-rounds for the Little Mermaid ride is they wanted the ride to like also include that scene where Ursula gets really big. And just seeing the concept art for it, I would have shat my pants. For some reason, dark rides of beloved Disney attractions make my blood run cold, and I don't know what it is. I think it's just being in a dark room with like scary sound effects and your beloved characters are 3D and they look like they're in distress. I'm just like, I want to cry. And it's just like the concept of you're also like in like this terrifying moment of the movie and the ride. Glad they cut that. So I'm glad that they tried to at least make it scary. But in general, again, like reputation, great. Like, not representation, not reputation. Sorry, Taylor Swift, you gotta get off my mind. Representation is always a good thing, and so if like that's the biggest net positive that comes from this movie, 2 thumbs up. But again, it's like,
and like it wasn't bad. Like I was entertained. It was entertaining. But also if I was a child and I was seeing it, I would have nightmares for weeks. The eels were so scary.
No, they're scarier on the original one because they talk. I'm just like, why the fuck aren't the eels talking?
Oh yeah, they were.
They were just like,
I didn't catch that.
Poor child. They talk like
that. Yeah.
So like when they die in the original, you're like, oh, those were talking people, and now they're like chum.
Yeah.
And she's like, my poopsies. And then you're like, yeah, those were like alive things. Before the eels are just like, because I don't know who, Rob Marshall or someone was like, no, the eels talking, that's too silly. We can't have talking fish in this movie. Meanwhile, Flounder's like, hey, Ariel. I never got over the fact that Flounder was just a fish.
Yeah, that's the thing where I'm like, this didn't need
the
to
last
be.
thing I'll say about this whole movie is that it was my favorite out of all the Disney live action remakes, and I didn't like it, but it was my favorite one. It's been the best one. But does that mean it was a good movie? No. And then the audio cut out. How have we not mentioned that yet?
Yeah, so we are like 10 minutes from this ending. It probably actually wasn't that long.
No, I think it was like 5 minutes. It just seemed like it was so long. I'm just like, is this real?
Yeah, it felt like forever. We're like 5 minutes from the end of this movie. Everything's basically wrapped up, but you know, the Prince Triton is like, I love you so much, my daughter. I'm so proud of you, blah, 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 blah. And everything's fine. Everything's going well. Like the music is musicking, the waves are crashing. But then you see lips move and no dialogue. And everyone in the theater was kind of like, huh? Mm-hmm. Like, what is happening? And then it, like, came back for a split second.
No.
And then, or that was the ADR?
Yeah, that's how you know what was put in ADR and what was actually put on the audio track. So essentially what happened is one of the speakers that was responsible for saying the dialogue blew. Mm-hmm. It blew out and it faded in because you can tell, like, you all hear was Sebastian, she's not really... And suddenly you're like, oh, my first thought was that Sebastian was losing his hearing is what I thought the movie was getting at. And then suddenly you're like, oh, we're still talking. And then occasionally, again, like the music was still there. The sound effects are still there. And then it'd be like nothing. And then it'd be like, how right you are, your majesty. And you'd be like, what was that? And that's because that was on the scratch track of the ADR and not actually part. So I'm like, now I know what lines were ADR. That's good. Mm-hmm. And then occasionally, like, the music would be music. And then you'd be like, go Ariel. And I'm like, oh, cool. So another line that I now know is ADR. It's fantastic.
Yeah, so we do have to go back and watch, like, the last 5 minutes because there was no dialogue.
I'm sure they said something so cool.
Yeah, so good and interesting. But yeah, that was our experience at the Little Mermaid. Again, like, it wasn't bad. It just wasn't it just wasn't my favorite. And it also just wasn't the best, like, theater experience in general.
I think next time I go to the Little Mermaid, because I have that free voucher, and the next time I go, I'm going to have to put myself in the mindset of, like, I'm a little girl and I am playing mermaids at my local pool. Or I'm a little girl and my family is going on vacation by the ocean. Let my imagination run wild. And I think then I'll have a good time.
Yeah. I did really like, they did make an effort to, like, have Ariel and Prince Eric, like, actually have things in common, which I really liked. And they also leaned in a lot of, like, the Caribbean culture, which I thought was cool. So yeah, it was fine. It was fine. Hard pivot. Did you hear that Hank Green has cancer? Yeah. It came up on my YouTube video. His like video, he made like a 3-minute video basically just like explaining like, yeah, I have cancer, like, it sucks. I'm dealing with it.
I don't
like
feel
how I
good.
can.
And I'm like,
He does have, it's Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is like the most treatable cancer, which is good. Yeah, but that's just like, I don't know. That's, I mean, not that anyone deserves to get cancer, but like, it does suck when it, especially when it's like someone who has had such a like positive impact on the world and on education, and you know, like he's just, as far as I know, like an amazing human being and person,
just a decent guy.
Yeah, so I don't know, it just really sucks that he's going through that. And then we like 30 actually. Yeah, like probably like 30 minutes before we started recording, Skyler and I were just talking, and
one thing led to another, and I am expecting.
But I talked
name
about
her White
it.
Claw.
Stop. I talked about it. I talked about it a little bit with Skyler, but I've been doing like a mini. I've been doing like a dopamine detox light. Like I have been, for, I don't know, anyone who doesn't know, a dopamine detox is basically like you get rid of everything that like gives you dopamine in your life. Like the hardcore people like don't see their friends for a week, and like live in silence and all of that. I'm not
like Grippy Sock Jail speed run.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. But I am just trying to be more mindful of like limiting my distractions. And so like I don't put reality TV on, which is funny because literally last week's episode was how I put
Normalized
reality
TV.
Yeah, in the background all the time. But I haven't been putting reality TV on in the background when I'm like doing other tasks. I haven't been listening to like English music. I've been specifically listening to like French indie pop because I can't understand what they're saying, so I can't like focus on what they're saying and like sing along. I can just kind of like listen to the music, and then it allows me to still think my thoughts. And I am basically, this whole thing, I was like, oh my god, my mind's gonna be like so clear, that I'm gonna feel so mindful, I'm gonna have so much time for no. It has caused me to spiral. Deeply.
No, I'm not about to be that person, but I'm finding the urge to be like,
yeah, who would have guessed?
What did you expect?
Who would have guessed? I expected clarity and like peaceful, like mindfulness. No, yeah.
Instead, you just experienced withdrawals.
No, yeah, it's just made me realize that I have been distracting myself from a lot of like negative emotions and like thoughts that I've really just like shoved down. And I'm like, no, I've dealt with my trauma. It's fine.
It's not here.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm not thinking about it. I'm watching Vanderpump Rules. And then I turned that off for extended periods of times, and I'm like, oh my god, I haven't dealt with any of it. I've just been distracting myself. So that's been my week.
Not the note, I need therapy.
Yeah,
LOL.
I need therapy, LOL, smiley face, which is something that I have been aware of for a long time, and I just haven't brought myself to do it. Frankly, because the idea of like, because I know that it's very unlikely that the first therapist I speak to is going to be like the one for me. And the idea of having to like talk to multiple people about like these deeply troubling things in my brain, like that's just so overwhelming, and I would rather not, even though like I know I should, I know I need to. But yeah, that's been, I don't know. Something is fucking in the air. I don't know what it is. The vibes are off. Like it's not good. I don't know if anyone else.
The vibes are keist.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone else can relate. Maybe it's just because the fucking shit weather. I know that, like, not to.
How long can we pin it on the weather?
I know. I'm an empath, and like the weather just deeply affects me. No, but like the weather does affect me. And it can, like, bad weather really can just put me in like a slump. Also, this is also my own fault, and something that I can easily fix by just booking an appointment. But like, I hate the length of my hair right now. I just want it short. I want it like 1 to 2 inches shorter, and for some, like, it's just like a little bit too long, and I hate it. And like every time I look in the mirror, I'm like, so
this is when manic girls just pick up the scissors.
Yeah. So I'm so close to just like going to cost cutters and being like, can you just like snip an inch off, because I don't, paying $85 for like a trim, it just is too much. and I don't want to do it. And that's why I've been putting it off. And also because, like, I don't know, going to the salon as, like, someone who deeply hates, like, acquaintance conversations, like, oh, I just hate it.
So how's life? Anything fun happening at work?
Yeah, I'm like, can I just sit in silence? Like,
They pick up on that really fast, though.
Yeah.
In my experience.
yeah, no, I think I think that's true. I definitely, yeah. But anyway, what are we talking about? What are we talking about today?
There we go. I'm trying to make my Barbie legs move. She was stuck.
Oh my god, yeah. If anyone's watching the YouTube video, please admire Skylar's incredible earrings that I'm deeply jealous of. I'm deeply jealous of.
So I love why. Okay, here's what happened. I had a topic for today, and I went down a very specific rabbit hole, and then I'm like, oh, this is something that I deeply care about. How can I make Kaylynne deeply care about it? And so I'm basically going to show you a very hyper-specific example. You're not going to think about how it will connect, and then it suddenly will. I'm a filmmaking mastermind. So I'm just going to take you along this journey, and I'm just going to give you information, and you're just going to catalog it, nod, and we're just going to take it from here. You too, audience. So Philip Knight is an American billionaire business magnate who was the co-founder and chairman of Nike. In April 2023, Knight, along with his family, was ranked by Forbes as the 24th richest person in the world with an estimated net worth of $47.7 billion. And he is also the owner of the stop-motion film production company Laika.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my exact... I was like, Nani? Nani kore? So his son, Travis Knight, worked at the studio as an animator, and now Travis Knight is the CEO. So the CEO's dad is the 24th richest person in the world and the owner of Nike. And I'm just like, shall we explore? So again, this is gonna be relevant. I'm gonna come back, but I want to take you a little bit through Laika as a studio and why I appreciate that they're still around and why I think that they're important. I didn't know this. In July 2005, they were called Will Vinton Studios. They rebranded as Laika because they were named after Laika, the dog sent to space by the Soviet Union in 1957. Okay. Do you not know this story?
Of why Laika? It's named like
no,
this?
Of who Laika, what, like with that dog.
Oh, vague. I mean, no, I couldn't retell it.
Long story short, essentially the Soviet Union wanted to see if life could survive, and they needed a level up between like mice and like chimps, because chimps are expensive. So they found a stray dog named Laika. And yeah, prepare to cry whenever you're reading this, because she finally felt like relaxed, like she was getting home, and instead they shove her in a rocket ship and they accelerated her heart rate. They didn't give her enough food or water to survive the journey back because they knew she was going to die. And all that happened is they just sent a dog up into space, and shockingly, they were tracking the heart rate, and her heart was beating 1,000,000 miles a second, and the dog passed away in space. And so the first time I heard about Laika, the space dog, it was in middle school, and I cried for like a day and a half.
Yeah.
But now, and there's so many comics basically being like, she's amongst the stars now. I think someone's trying to name like a constellation.
Oh my God.
It's heartbreaking. But it is really sweet that like Laika as a stop motion animation company was like, no, we want to name our company Laika because we love that little dog. So going into this, what do you know of Laika as a studio?
Oh my God, literally nothing. I've never heard of this studio before.
But you have heard of their output, and I promise you that.
Okay, that's what I'm waiting for.
Laika Studio released its first feature film, Coraline.
Oh.
That's them.
Oh, okay.
So obviously Coraline, we all love it. Everyone loves Coraline. And when it was released, it received a nomination, an Academy Award nomination, and a BAFTA nomination for Best Animated Feature, and a nomination for the Golden Globes for Best Animated Feature, and 8 nominations at the Annie Awards. And the Annie Awards are the animation awards. So they're the most important awards that an animation film can get, and they won 3 of those. So the budget for Coraline was around $60 million, and it made about $124.6 million. So around twice its budget. Not too shabby. And also, like, that number has only gone up because of like merch sales and whatever, and like bitches love Coraline. I think like even as a kid, like I was scared titless of Coraline, but even as a kid, when you know something is too scary, you know it's good. It's just like not for you yet. And like there are some things that you're like, I don't have like a critical eye because I'm a kid and the things are just things, and I just like consume them uncritically because I don't know that you can do that with media yet. But like, I recognize that this is a good movie. However, I'm not going to see it for the rest of my life.
I'll come back to you later.
Literally. Their second stop-motion feature film, Paranorman, opened on August 17th, 2012. Again, it also received a nomination from the Academy Awards and the BAFTAs for Best Animated Feature. 8 nominations at the Annie Awards, winning 2. So this is, continuing the trend of high audience praise, high critic praise. Again, the budget was around $60 million, and it made about $107.1 million. So like a $47 million profit, which isn't bad, but it is not gonna be enough to bankroll your next movie, which is kind of like, once you break even, you'd want the remainder of that money to go into like, back into your company, back into the next movie that you make. But we're already seeing the second movie in a profit dip, and you're gonna have to come up with that budget to make the next movie from somewhere else. So we're already seeing kind of warning signs. And in general, I feel like Paranorman is incredibly underrated. You'd think that like it'd be a safe bet as an animation studio to make a holiday movie, because then you can guarantee that like, oh, someone's always going to rewatch us come Halloween time. But I feel like out of far of all like the kids' Halloween content, Paranorman is kind of like, it's underrated. It slips through the cracks. People would rather watch Hocus Pocus or like Nightmare Before Christmas.
I've never seen Paranorman because I remember when it came out and I thought it looked kind of stupid. So I just never watched it. I'm sure it's good.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
I mean,
I feel like it wasn't like marketed well.
That's the other thing too, because it's like stop motion. Obviously, it's a very unique animation form. It isn't 3D. It isn't 2D. It's stop motion is its own separate genre, and so as like one of the most indie animation companies out there, they can't market it super well because they don't exactly have the budget to market it super well, and that's also going to be a bad thing when your movies aren't bringing in like asinine profits. So their third film, The Box Trolls, which is the first, again, I saw Paranorman, I saw Coraline. It took me forever to watch The Box Trolls because I also thought it looked kind of dumb. The Box Trolls was released on September 26, 2014. Again, Academy Award nomination, Golden Globe nomination, for Best Animated Feature, 9 nominations at the Annie Awards. They won 2 of them.
Wow.
So their quality of the movies has not gotten down. Again, they're staying pretty consistent with the $60 million budget, and it made $109.3 million. So again, we are making a profit, but especially when you compare it to a lot of other profits of other movies, especially other animated movies, Laika is kind of not in that same range. Like, you kind of want your movies to make a little, like, more than just barely half of what they make, and then some. And Laika also has a consistently high critic rate, and like audiences love them, but like, just, it's one of those things where like audiences love them, critics love them, but just like no one's going to see it.
Yeah.
Especially when you compare to other animation studios like Illumination. And this is when Skyler will hijack the podcast because she wants to rant about Illumination Entertainment for 3,000 years. So for comparison, Illumination is famous amongst like animation circles for being the worst. Like, they're known for overworking their animators, not paying them enough, constantly reusing character models and like backgrounds, and they spend most of their budget on their celebrity voice talent and in their marketing and not their actual movies. And because they do everything so fucking cheap, they can make the most money. And they treat films like they're a business first, movie second, and that's not even like me as a critic critiquing them. That is coming directly from the mouth of Chris Meledandri, the owner of Illumination, saying that we will treat this company like a business and not like a place where movies are made. I found this fucking New York Times article where someone interviewed him, and they made him seem like Illumination was this underdog. Like, they were like, Jeffrey Katzenberg of DreamWorks Animation is sitting in a mansion, and the owner of DreamWorks is sitting in this quaint little secluded expensive place, and Chris Meledandri's in this modest little cement block, and little old him is gonna shake up the bigwigs of animation. I'm like, what? This isn't an underdog story. And it's exact, like, Chris Meledandri wants to prove that strict cost controls and hit animated films are not mutually exclusive, that these pictures do not have to cost $150 million, which is about what Paramount Pictures and its partners spent on Rango. This article's kind of old. Despicable Me just came out. They can cost around $69 million. The budget for Despicable Me. Quote from him, "Very few management layers, clear decision making, shortening the length of time you spend developing a movie. It can be done," he says. "Keeping investment in animation technology to a minimum also keeps costs down." So I mentioned earlier in a separate episode that one of the things that I really appreciate about Disney and Pixar and sometimes DreamWorks is that it's not enough that, when they keep making new movies to keep making new movies, is that they always try to find a way to push the envelope somehow. Like for Frozen 2, they're like, we need a new snow software. Or like for Brave, we need a new, hair animation software. They always try to push the envelope, push the boundary of like what animation can even look like, because, that's one of the reasons that you're in this business. And then Chris Meledandri is like, if we don't do that, we'll save money. And it's like, yeah. No shit. And I just, like, my note, read Illumination's box office numbers. Jesus Christ, it hurts. So we got around like 70, so for the Lorax, just throwing out one, right? $70 million budget. We made about $349.2 million. For Minions, the budget was 74. We made about $1.1 billion.
Those were all me.
Secret Life of Pets, 75 million, 894 million.
Yeah.
I think the most expensive that they had done is the Super Mario Bros. Movie, and that's because Nintendo was breathing down their neck the whole time to make sure that everyone was on model, that everything looked nice, because you're working with like a multi-trillion-dollar international brand, that the brand was constantly being like, make sure that Mario looks like this, and make sure that, you don't make Princess Peach dab, and like, so you're still working with a giant. So up to date, the Super Mario Bros. Movie is the most expensive thing that Illumination's ever done at $100 million for a budget, and they've already $1.2 billion. Like, but consistently up until like whatever their cap was about $85 million, and they're just 800 million, 600 million, billions. Like the merit for how much money they make is actually extreme. But that's an extreme example, right? It's kind of unfair to treat like, and then Laika made $20 million. Like, and I was like, it'd be disingenuous if I just compare them to Illumination, who's famous for like big numbers, bad movie. By the way, anyone who just like takes their kids to see Illumination movies, I hate you. And you. Because you said those were all you. And you, Keely. I know you watched the Minions movie. I know you made that happen.
I do love the Minions.
So I'm just like, but I also feel like Disney's also unfair, right? Because Disney has that brand recognition. They're like a multi-billion-dollar company. So I was like, let's pick a different animation company to kind of balance it off. Sony, right? Sony's a pretty mid animation. They have Claudia the Chance and Meatballs. They have the Smurfs. They also do Spider-Verse, but that's separate. Mitchell's versus the Machines. But in general, like, they make about 100. This is the Angry Birds movie made like $100 million. Claudia Chance and Meatballs, $119 million opening. So even like the most modest ones, like Surf's Up in like 2009 made about like $58 million with a profit of like about $45 million. Like, there's still, Laika's not doing too hot in general. And just going back in, now that we kind of know like what they're dealing with, what the market itself is dealing with, the Laika's numbers, while they still may seem good isolated, when you compare to the rest of the industry, Laika's definitely like, yeah, they're definitely kind of losing money. Their fourth film, this one makes me sad, Kubo and the Two Strings. Heard of this?
No.
Fair. It was released on August 19th, 2016. It received two nominations at the Academy Awards for Best Animated Feature and Best Visual Effects. And it is the second animated film to ever receive the nomination after The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oh, wow.
So usually the Academy doesn't really give a shit about animation. They'll just be like, yeah, Best Animated Feature. But sometimes you'll win things like sound mixing or special effects for in the case Kubo and the Two Strings. And again, it won the BAFTA for Best Animated Feature, nomination for the Golden Globes, 10 nominations at the Annie Awards. It is their most critically acclaimed film to date. And again, $60 million budget, $77.5 million profit. So again, they're just like, now you have around $17 million to make your next movie. And it worries me. Their most recent film, Missing Link, was released in 2019. It received, again, Academy Award nomination, Best Animated Feature, 8 nominations at the Annie Awards. It won the Golden Globe for Best Animated Feature, which is a big deal since this usually automatically just goes to the Disney Pixar movies, sometimes DreamWorks. And they upped the budget for this one for the first time. The budget for Missing Link was $102.5 million, and it made $26 million in the box office. They lost $76 million on it, which is more than they've made for any of their movies.
Yeah.
And you're just sitting here and you're like, okay, so what's happening? This animation company is struggling, kind of in the shitter. So is Aardman, the only other large-scale stop-motion company. They're the Wallace and Gromit people.
Oh!
That's Aardman.
Okay,
Like, Aardman... Chicken Run made like $106 million and like Flushed Away only made 64. Arthur Christmas made 46. Like these are all like the Pirates movie, Band of Misfits 31. Like these aren't super big numbers, and that's just kind of the what happens when you just do stop motion animation, unfortunately. And it would depend on your level of ambition for the project, but in general, animation circles consider stop motion to be the most difficult animation style that there is, even if like modern computer technology can make it a little bit easier than it used to be, because stop motion, you have to think about how things move ahead of time. It's that thing where, like, you know that scene in iCarly where Spencer's trying to do a stop motion thing where she's like, move it a little bit, take a picture, move it a little bit, take a picture, and it's just like the minute details. You have to know where this hand is going to move, and if you mess up, you have to start all over. You can't add a frame in there. It all has to flow together. So you have to have the most like visual eye to see where it's going. Everything is maneuvered by hand, like with clay, like with little figures.
Incredibly time consuming.
Yeah, it's time consuming. It takes forever, like consistently, even though like Laika is dedicated now. Like it used to have a commercial department. They've abandoned that to just focus on theatrical, and they'll work on one movie for 2.5 years consistently because it takes so fucking long. You have to make 1 billion faces for one character, and you have to swap them out. You have to make the mouth move with your fucking fingers. Like, yeah, it's incredibly time consuming. Stop motion is often considered to be a dying art. And so you're probably wondering, Skyler, what did you do? Why? I don't care. Why did you bring us down the Laika thing? And there's an article from Cartoon Brew where it says Laika is here to stay and they will keep making films. And the opening of that article says, what is the best thing about having your animation studio run by one of the world's richest men? You get to make as many animated movies as you damn please, is the quote. And because Laika is getting direct support from Nike money. Essentially, the CEO and the co-founder of Nike is like, I support my son in his creative endeavors, and Nike is personally bankrolling Laika.
Yeah.
So occasionally, because people are like, hey, how come whenever Laika makes a new movie, there's like a new like Nike shoe collab with like Paranorman? Who gives a shit? And it's because basically like Rich Daddy is just like, son, I'm proud of you. If you need money, I will give you Nike money. So Laika will never go under unless Nike goes under. Yeah. And Nike is not going to fucking go under. And so they can bomb over and over again. And through the nature of stop motion animation, they're probably going to keep bombing. Just because, like, unfortunately, it's just one of those things where, like, you're only in it for the artistry. Kids find, and a lot of people, kids included, find stop motion unnerving, which I think is why a lot of people don't. That's why Coraline worked so well. A lot of, like, stop motion horror works so well, because there can be something unnerving about
it's
like stop motion.
It's a little creepy. Yeah.
It is a little creepy, and if they veer more towards that, you know, I feel like you either have to go full horror with it or like creepy crawlies, or you have to go like Wes Anderson with it.
Yeah.
Like Fantastic Mr. Fox is also stop motion.
I Love Dogs, right?
And I Love Dogs is also like a little unnerving. You kind of have to lean into that, where it's like a little oddball, a little off, a little quirky, but you have to lean into the style that you're creating. But you have to be in it for the artistry, because people just don't care enough to see it. And sometimes it looks so smooth that it might as well be CGI. And part of me, I'm just like, before I knew any of this, I'm like, you're going to go under. Like, can't you just do a CGI just this once? Like, I love your movies. And it's just... Because again, like...
You just need one tentpole feature, like...
Yeah, and that was Coraline. Yeah. And, like, that's why, like, every time I see, like, a Coraline backpack at Hot Topic or, like, a Coraline-themed bedsheet, I'm like, yes, thank God. But, like, it is really disappointing as like not really I don't really consider myself to be like that much of a film nerd, but like enough of a film lover to see like obviously the reason I kept listing out all those awards is like they're making good movies.
Yeah.
And it just sucks that like just because of the nature of like the industry and the nature of the medium that can turn a lot of audiences away from it, that you have these incredibly talented people doing the world's hardest jobs for no thanks. And it's very relieving that they have this rich donor that no matter what they can keep chasing after their own art without having to necessarily worry about the industry. Right, you know, we don't care if we lose money. He and his son are like, I don't care if Laika loses money, I want to keep doing it. I believe in Laika's storytelling capabilities. And just like using your family's massive wealth to like essentially single-handedly keep stop motion animation alive is one of the most constructive things a rich person has done in years, perhaps ever, in my experience. And then I'm like, do you remember like the Renaissance where like just obscenely rich people like lords and queens would just like personally fund random artists and bankroll giant art projects just because they could? Like they used to be like, I want a church and I want it to be the coolest looking church, and you there, young squire, I want you to paint your magnum opus on the fucking ceiling just because. And I want a music hall, and I want all these musicians to play beautiful music all day, and I want to bankroll all of these musicians because I fucking can. And it's like rich people now just hoard, pass it around. Maybe they'll fund a microchip in our brains that may or may not make us explode mid-sentence. Or like maybe they'll put their name behind a rocket ship that disintegrates once it gets off the ground. Or maybe they'll fund a transphobic fascist political campaign, and they'll do it all in baggy shorts so no one will know that they're actually rich when they fucking walk down the street like a coward. And that brought me back to like the theme of this topic in general, because I don't really have a ton of answers and I wanted to get your thoughts on it, is because I can go on and on about how much I hate billionaires, because I do. And at one point, I'm talking to some people who are pro billionaires, which at that point I'm like, they're never gonna love you. Like, you can't keep bootlicking the boot that's stepping on you. What are you doing? But they're just like, so what can they do? Like, what can billionaires do that will make you appreciate them? And I'm like, honestly, that.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, now I totally understand, because you gave me a little bit of like a teaser of what your topic was going to be before we started. And you kept going. I was kind of like, okay. And then I was like, oh, and I totally, I completely agree. I feel like something that is particularly, I guess, concerning to me just about like the state of the entertainment industry currently is that there is such a huge focus on like, okay, how commercial is this product?
Yeah. How can we sell it?
Yes. How can we sell this? How much money is this going to make? Who are the big names in this? Who's attached to this? Like that, there's just such a gigantic, that's the whole issue with like the AI writers, right?
Yeah.
Like these higher ups don't give a shit about the art form. They really don't. They care because it's an incredibly lucrative business, or at least has the potential to be. It is, but like, if you're a newer company, like you're probably not making that much money.
Yeah.
But like it can be an incredibly lucrative business. But the thing about art is that a lot of really great art pushes boundaries and tries something new and probably does things that not everyone is going to love and is just not commercial. But that's not the priority right now, because especially with all these streamers and stuff who are losing so much money on their content, like they are only focused on the money making aspect of it, that like the art form doesn't fucking matter anymore. Yeah. And it you brought up Wes Anderson already, but like I'm pretty sure Wes Anderson literally has a like independent like funder who continues to bankroll every single one of his films. And like, to be fair, like he could probably find the funding like elsewhere if he needed to, but he does. He has a single investor it could be multiple investors. I don't know.
Everyone in Letterboxd, give me $1, and everyone's like, yes, Wes.
Yeah, literally. But like, that's why he, continues to make films, especially in like the style that he does, that like isn't very commercial, and that like can seem a little pretentious, like. Is because he has this investor. And I think that's really interesting. We were discussing earlier of like, is there such thing as like an ethical billionaire? Like, what can billionaires do with their money? And I said something like, well, if you were an ethical billionaire, you wouldn't be a billionaire.
Correct.
Because if you're a business owner, there would be no way for you to earn $1 billion like individually because hopefully you would be distributing that money amongst like your employees. You would be getting like better bonuses, better health care. You would, help people pay off their student loans, help people with their car payments. Like there really is no way to like be an ethical billionaire, I kind of believe. But, and I mean, this whole topic brings up the issue of like nepotism as well. Like if this wasn't his son, would he give a fuck about stop motion animation?
Most likely not.
Probably not. But it's like, whatever. Like it's one of those things where it's like, does the intention matter as much as like the cause of things?
And that's definitely, I'm going to get into that because I want to talk about like the Mr. Beast and stuff. And oddly enough, and literally, I feel like I'm going to step on hot coals saying this. J.K. Rowling, it's a good example.
Explain.
Oh, God, I just feel like bile just flew out of my mouth. Because she gave so much to charity that she lost her billionaire status.
Yeah.
I think she might have got it back. But I, at least when I was deep in my like J.K. Rowling can do no wrong phase when I was 13 and didn't have a fully functioning brain.
Yeah.
That was one of the things I really admired about her, is that due to like the numbers of the Harry Potter books and the Harry Potter movies, and like she made this giant multi-million-dollar franchise, that she threw most of it back into like charity so much that she was just a multi-millionaire. But I know.
A modest, $50 million.
Everyone like, wipe your tears away from the multi-millionaire. How will she make it? But that proved that though to me, is like, if you really cared that much, you just wouldn't be a billionaire, because you would keep having to like reinvigorate the economy and your employees by constantly putting that money, instead of just like having it and sitting on it like a dragon, to just like putting it back into people.
Yeah,
pumping full of coins. And yeah, I'm like, in all honesty, due to just like the nature of the super wealthy, if you're not one giant charity machine, you're on my menu. When it comes time to eat the rich, give me a bib and like a cartoonishly large knife and fork, and I'll like bang on the table like that scene in Cats, where the cats are banging their giant fork and knife on the very large table. And I'm like, I'm not talking Mr. Beast level of charity either, which is what I wanted to, because you brought up if someone does charity, does intention and the way you go about it matter if at the end of the day, charity is being done? And that's actually where I'm like, I don't have answers for that. So like, if you don't know, like mega quadrillionaire YouTuber Mr. Beast got in some like hot water on Twitter recently because he made a video where he cured 1,000 blind people. So like, did you hear about any of this?
I literally know nothing about Mr. Beast. Like I have heard, Mr. Beast is someone that like comes up on my like YouTube explore page, not his videos, but like commentary videos, or like he's someone who I've heard of and like who has been referenced, but I literally like I have no fuck, like what is his content? I don't even know what he does.
Most I think was what of his content recently is that he's kind of marketed himself as like the billionaire who wants to give everything away. So he's the one that's like, all right, I'm going to give away a car. Who wants a car? And he'll give you a car. Okay. He's like, all right, who wants a house? I'll give you a house. He's like trying to sell himself as like the white man's Oprah. And so he made a video recently that Twitter just kind of chewed on for a little bit, where he's like, I cured 1,000 blind people. Yeah, much to crunch on.
much to consider.
So like, obviously you read this on paper and you're like, okay, he cured the blind. Good. Like, it looks like he's using his wealth to help people with a disability who want to be cured. And like, you could whinge about like the narrative that blind or deaf people need to be cured for like being problematic for those that are like happy and content with who they are and the community they have. But I think like after chewing on a little bit, I think I'll side with the people that say that like just one incredibly popular YouTuber doing one video doesn't single-handedly push the narrative that like, you're right, and blind people should all be cured. Like, just because he does one video curing 1,000 blind people doesn't necessarily mean that he's trying to push the agenda, like the anti-blind agenda. However, my problem with that is like, it's the same problem I have with people filming themselves away, like helping the homeless. Yeah. Like the like, hey dude, hold my camera while I like go up and like give this like homeless or like houseless person like this boxed lunch or like a $200, or like, you know, State Farm, like walking up to someone's like dilapidated house and giving and making sure they film themselves giving them like the giant paper check, and like just because they want to watch the reaction of the woman falling to her knees in gratitude. That's when I have like a problem. Like, Mr. Beast didn't have to be in the room with these people when it happened, making sure his camera caught their first ever moments of sight. He didn't need to Photoshop himself holding a crying child in the thumbnail. He didn't need to center himself around his good deeds to make sure that his good deeds can still make good content, can still make him more money, can be a part of his PR campaign to broadcast that he is actually a really good person. It's like, shit, dog, you could have just cured those people off camera. Like, make your videos that make billions of dollars, and then with those billions of dollars, if you want to donate it, do it like quietly. I mean, like, if you wanted to make sure that like they knew it was you, maybe you could put like Mr. Beast and a giant picture of your face like on those giant checks, and that way like by themselves the blind people could be like, oh, did you know that Mr. Beast like did this? But you don't have to basically be like, hey guys, it's me, Mr. Beast, and I'm gonna cure 1,000 blind people today.
Don't forget to hit subscribe.
Yeah, I'm like, I mean, I guess that's 1,000 less blind people who wanted to not be blind anymore. So, like, I can't hate you, but also I'm like, it's icky. I know a lot of people like, what did you want him to do? Like, literally, like, he's using his money in the best way possible. Like, he is doing something that, like, obviously the U.S. healthcare system wasn't doing. These, like, 1,000 easily curable blind people that only needed, like, this much money for a very simple surgery that they couldn't afford. And Mr. Beast is going around the U.S. healthcare system and doing it directly. Direct action. Isn't this what you want? Do you not want, like, people with money to have an ounce of social responsibility and go around their giant, massive egos and, like, actually give back to people? Where it's like, yes. So I guess I'm not about to be like, Mr. Beast, you can't do that. Like, next time you want to cure people with disabilities, maybe think next time. Like, I don't think I'm saying that, but I think it's the lack. I always think that, like, my brain struggles to accept charity when it comes from a place of ego.
Yeah.
We're like, I guess for the people that really need it, like, they don't care. Like, one of my favorite Steve Irwin bits is he was being interviewed about, like, what he wants his life to look like. And, you know, looking back, it's really sad because then he passed away. But he was just like, I'm going to take money. He's like, and I don't give a rip whose money it is. He's like, that's going right back into conservation. It's going right back into the globe, into nature. And that will benefit everybody. And that line of, like, and I don't care whose money it is. I don't give a rip about whose money. I'm like, oh, fuck. Like, guys, that is, if you are struggling and you need help, if you need charity, I guess, like, you're not within the position to be like, okay, but, like, are you a good person first?
Yeah.
Like, I will deny this help until you can vet Twitter's, like, good person quiz. So I guess I'm like, for that, I don't know. It's like charity is still happening. Good things are still happening. But I think it's the need for, like, if I'm getting charity and then, like, I'm blind, right? And then suddenly I'm not blind, and the first thing I see is Mr. Beast's giant fucking camera in my face, making sure that he sees the wonderment of being able to see my children again. I think I'd be a little annoyed.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Like, it's not like the end of the world. Like, again, people who wanted to be cured are no longer blind. Like, net positive, good job. But I think it's the need to just, like, refuse. It's like doing charity, but not being humble about it. It's like, you can't do that. I didn't even think you could do that. Isn't the whole point of charity to de-humble yourself?
Exactly. It's because it's not truly, like, charitable. Like, you're not doing it for, like, altruistic reasons. You're doing it because you want to boost your ego. You're doing it because you want people to perceive you as a good person. And you're doing it to curate a very specific image of yourself. And I definitely think this is a very, like, complicated topic. And you said something earlier. You're like, I don't have answers. I don't know. I totally agree. Like, it is one of those things where it is like, does the intention truly matter? Like, good is being done. Like, I guess you can't really be upset about it. And you know, I don't think anyone in this specific instance is saying, like, take it back. Like, you didn't do it for the right reasons.
Reblind them.
Yeah. like what?
Go full Glee and put a rock slushy, like a rock salt slushy. Reblind them.
But I guess I just feel like it's one of those things where, as, like, a critical consumer of, you know, media or social media and all of that, like, this isn't furthering my opinion of Mr. Beast. Like, I mean, I don't really have one of him, like, in general, but, like, that doesn't make me think that he's a good person.
Yeah.
You know, like it doesn't make me think that you are like this almighty, you know, generous donor who really cares about these people and their lives, and like you're gonna follow up with these people and like create these meaningful relationships with that. Like that's probably not gonna happen. Like whatever.
No.
But I do think that's an interesting conversation that like there's no right answer to, which is
even
like,
when I told you that Mr. Beast cured 1,000 blind people, you didn't go, "Oh my god, that's awesome." You went, "Oh," like you're like, okay.
well, I think I was just a little confused, and you did explain it like later, but I was like, how are you curing?
You're like, we've had the cure
blind
to
people?
we've had the cure to blindness this whole time.
Yeah, that's why I was a little confused on, and I was like, curing, is that the right? I guess like it was just a little confusing. And it does feel very like he did not cure these people. I think it's the wording too, where I was like, okay, he's not the doctor. Like he's not the one who is like going and doing the surgery or whatever.
I think the thumbnail was him literally like holding a photoshopped child that was crying with like a giant tear, and like the caption was like, I cured I helped like 1,000 blind people.
And that just like proves the ego, you know? It's like, you did not cure those people. You are in a position where you are lucky enough to have substantial funds, much more than you could ever possibly need, much more than you could ever even know what to do with, that you are able to like support these people in this way. But like, you did not cure them. You literally like dropped a fucking penny in like the Salvation Army bucket, you know, like that's not, you're not this like incredible, amazing person to be put on a pedestal. It's kind of like, yeah, that's the bare minimum when you have that much wealth.
Yeah.
I feel like, at least.
Mm-hmm. And even like one of my favorite YouTubers, Yanni Gonzalez, like gave someone a car. But then, like, he made that whole video about how, like, researching, like, the tax laws and making sure that, like, it wasn't going to be, like, a brand new, like, Hummer. And, like, making sure he was like, hey, do you mind me asking? Like, because, like, when people just give away cars, like, on TV and stuff, or, like, a brand new house, like, Extreme Makeover Home Edition, like, you know, you just end the episode, you're like, oh, now they have a really nice house, and they were really unfortunate. They're a really poor family, and now they live in a mansion. That's awesome. Next episode. Thank you, Extreme Makeover Home Edition. And then people come out afterwards and basically be like, yeah, I couldn't afford that. They didn't give me property tax money. I still don't have money. Like, I still am on like a dilapidated shack salary, except now I am expected to pay for this grandiose mansion with a giant ass lawn. I can't pay the property tax on this. I can't afford this new car. They're going to have to tow it. They're going to have to tax the shit out of it because I'm not in the right tax bracket to afford something this nice. And it's just like, are you even really doing good at that point? You're just doing it because you want to tell people that you gave someone who was less fortunate something nice. And it's like, unless it's like a purse or something that you don't need to pay taxes on, you have fucked them for like a significant period of time.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you brought up that video, because I was immediately like thinking about that. Because I think in a situation like that, like obviously he did, you know, film himself like gifting a car to someone. But the whole point of the video was basically like, what is the most ethical way to gift someone a Tesla? Can you do it without like ruining their lives, or at least like without getting the car, like we're in a way where they can actually keep the car and maintain the car in a way that is like sustainable to them. And I think a lot about like lottery winners as well, where like most people who win the lottery come out and are like, no, this actually made my life worse. Like I thought that it would, you know, my life would be amazing and I could like pay off all these debts and all these things, but then like after taxes, you know, it's really not that much. And also you're getting paid like every year or something, like you're not really getting that lump sum. And then also you have all of these people who like you thought were friends and family who now are like, oh well, now you have all this money, like maybe you can help me out. And it's like most people who win the lottery like regret it and wish that it wouldn't have happened to them. And obviously I don't have a specific, no one asked for my sources on this, I just heard it somewhere, I don't remember. I'm like, I don't have a specific statistic of like how many people regret winning the lottery. But yeah, I don't know, I don't really have any answers to any of these things. I'm very glad. I do think one of the more ethical ways that if you have lots of money and you can just like create businesses like that, one of the best things you can do is like continue the like dying arts. You know, you can fund programs like that, or like create, I mean, even if you want to create a fucking, you know, stop motion animation business, it's still a business, whatever. But like, you know, it's losing money. Like but you're still like continuing and preserving a art that isn't prioritized anymore. And I think that's really fantastic. Or, you know, even if you're donating to charity, even if you're fucking filming yourself donating to charity, whatever, the money's still going to charity. Like, does it really matter that much? Or, you know, maybe if you're a billionaire, you could like look at your employees and, you know, pay them better wages and like give them better healthcare and things like that.
Yeah. At this point, because I was talking, because unfortunately my dad is like crawled so far up Elon Musk's asshole that sometimes I'm losing him. And he was just like, is there anything that Elon Musk could do at this point that would make you go, that's a good guy? And I'm like, no. Sometimes you've passed the point of no return for me. Even if tomorrow Elon Musk was like, congratulations, everyone, I've single-handedly cured cancer. I was like, first of all, I don't believe you. I don't trust that you did. And second of all, did you cure cancer, or did you just like take someone's cancer research and go, interesting, we'll look into this, and then like just take it and call it like the Tesla 2.3 thousand ultimate cancer cure? And you're actually going to give it to me and my arm's going to fall off. Like, I don't trust that, dog. But yeah, I guess like in the most ideal world, if like tomorrow J.K. Rowling was like, just congratulations, like I have donated all of my money to trans activism, and I'm going to live out my life as like, you know, a modest $3,000 a month apartment dweller. Will I just be like, okay.
Yeah. Cool.
Like, I'll just be like, that's nice. Do you expect me to praise you? At that point, I'm like, when have I completely lost my empathy for billionaires in general?
Well, and I feel like specifically with Elon Musk, I'm a little like, I have zero hope for you, because it's not even like you're good to people who you should care about.
Like your family.
Yeah, like your fucking children who you've like abandoned
trans
over
daughter,
and over again. Like
your fucking literal actual blood daughter who is trans, who has since distanced herself from you in like legally, because she like, you are actively spreading rhetoric that gets her like in danger.
Yeah. So I'm like, Elon specifically, I'm like, there's like, you're just I don't trust you. Like,
immediately their kid, however you would kill his kid with Grimes. How do you pronounce that? His kid's name is like they immediately walk into this room and like start beating me with knives.
Oh my God. That was so perfect. Yeah. Any closing statements?
Eat the rich.
Thoughts? Yeah.
No, I guess, I don't know. I guess like you already have to have such a large ego to be a billionaire that the last thing I want to see is you like cosplaying as Jesus Christ and like curing the blind and healing the sick and walking on water in front of everyone. Because I think like, just realized like billionaires are so unpopular. I know. Everyone, wipe your tears. Like, their lives suck. Because, like, it is true, and I can totally imagine some, like, out-of-touch billionaire being like, it's like, no matter what I do, like, they hate me. And they're, like, crying, and they're, like, dabbing their eyes with, like, crystal-infused tissues. And it's like, yeah. Where you're already going up against such a heavy hill where, like, you realize that you're an incredibly unpopular person because majority of life on this planet is either jealous of you or wants you to die. That you already have to go up such a giant hill that the last thing that people need is for you to also be unlikable. It's just like, I don't know, like the last thing that would look good for you is to continue to have the world's most massive, sweltering ego and refusing to get rid of it, even when it comes to the like giving other people things. If like, honestly, at that point, your mind's probably too far gone. If I'm a billionaire, my mind is so warped that like the concept of doing something without filming, without like making myself the center of attention, probably doesn't even fucking occur to me. It's probably like actually unfathomable. At that point, I don't even know if it's their fault. Frankly, they're just like too like Scrooge McDucked to consider other people.
Yeah, you're so removed from reality at that point, or I guess like the average person's reality.
Until I get my big ass fork and my big ass knife and we bust out the guillotine.
Huzzah!
I wonder if my employer will see this one day. Oh my God. What if they're like, we at Illumination Entertainment, we're going to hire you, but
First, we have to do a quick background check.
this podcast will quickly and swiftly be deleted from the internet. So enjoy these laughters while you still can.
Yeah, unfortunately, we are still victims of capitalism and do need money to survive. Yeah, so...
Mr. Beast, if you ever wanted to give me some money, though, that'd be fine.
That would be fine.
I wouldn't be mine.
And you know what? And I would be like, oh my God, I would go around and I would tell all my friends, oh my God, Mr. Beast is like such an amazing person.
I would pose for the thumbnail. I look so cool.
I would tell you, you're so cool on my face and just like look as disheveled as possible. So that way it like really seems
the crying kid in the thumbnail has like a bandage on his head.
Yeah.
I'm not even kidding. I'm pretty sure the thumbnail has
like an eye patch or something, you know, just really make myself look as in need as possible, so you can, you know, get as many subs as you can, get as many thumbs up. Yeah, guys, if this video reaches 500, oh my God, okay, sorry, she just showed me the thumbnail. Why is his facial hair like that? Why does he look like that? Why did I don't think I knew what Mr. Beast looks like. What? Why? Who is this child? That's an actor. That has to be. Oh my God. Can I read it? Am I supposed to read it? Incredible thumbnail from Mr. Beast. The look of absolute horror on the child's face conveys the sublime terror that defeats even our ability to facially express anguish, while Beast's garish false smile mixes with the flat irrational perspective to unite both forms and content. Wow. Magical. Yeah, guys, give this video 500,000 likes up and we too will, we're gonna cure autism next, so.
Thank God, I'm struggling.
No, that's a joke, guys. I'm absolutely kidding. Because first of all, we don't have money. Second of all, curing autism. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. I hope you get cured of your blindness by Mr. Beast. I hope he goes in with the scalpel specifically, personally, yeah, and helps you out. We are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube if you want to see our beautiful faces, and you can see my haircut that is making me so angry. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.